Hello, this is Alan back again, and I have a very interesting video for people here. First off, I'll kind of jump to the point and say that I managed to obtain the ultra rare legendary Brutes Club and also ranked 1 in the leaderboard on the event A Glimpse into the Unknown. So we'll go through the information. First off, we have our introduction slide here. Next off, we have a slide on the Brute Club, kind of the backstory around the Brute Club and its associated ultra rare status. Next is a slide, a little bit of information on the actual drop itself that I got, which was a very interesting, and I was lucky as well in order to actually get this item, and we'll go into that in much more detail here. Next, a video of the looting of the club, and it wasn't a simple looting because I wasn't actually assigned the loot, and followed by a comparison of weapon stats. It is a crush weapon, so I compare all the different crush weapons and their associated information. Then, as what a lot of people are wondering, they want to see that club in action, so I have a short video of me going around one-shotting goblins, which is quite satisfying, followed by some general brute information for people that are interested in potentially obtaining this weapon for themselves, in addition to a little video of how the brutes can spawn. Next, we have a slide on the group gameplay strategies and a video of our full 3-camp rotation from brown to green to yellow goblin camps in a full group, which is a fairly long video in detail. Following that, a slide on various cheese places, at least one cheese location for solo or small group play at each of the various brute spawn locations, and videos showing those for cheese spots being put into action. And then some final thoughts as per the norm, in addition to some other information going forward. The legendary Brutes Club itself. So first off, upon the completion of the Glimpse into the Unknown event, which was a play-to-earn event with leaderboard and gala token payouts, on the right it showed that there were 109,800 goblins killed total during the event, and that's the summation of goblin hunters, archers, and brutes. Of those, 4.7% were brute. Multiplying 109,800 goblins times 4.7% equaled 5,160 total brute kills. The devs in the most recent AMA said that the drop rate of the legendary Brutes Club was slightly less than the total number of kills during the event. Given a nice round number, I assumed it was probably in the ballpark of about 1 drop in every 5,500 kills, which makes this item insanely rare, especially considering that the Goblin Brute is a very difficult mob to actually kill. Solo, it takes about 6 to 7 minutes of constant attacking, 10 minutes plus if you have to be kiting around. My story. So on the far left there you can see my spreadsheet with showing the days and the total number of kills per day, and then the total number of kills altogether, with the legendary Brute Club dropping on kill number 104. Note, day 3 was very low, and that's because I got locked out of my exemplar after spending most of the day farming for cotton and bones, which was quite a setback, and as of now, 4 days later, as the time of recording this video, I still don't have access to that exemplar. Nonetheless, interestingly enough, I got the Brute Club on the very first kill today, which is the day that I'm recording this video, and as you can see from the very far right screenshot, because it's grayed out, I was not actually assigned the club. What I think happened was that the Goblin Archer, who I met along the path of kiting the Brute and eventually shot 1 arrow and hit the Brute, I think was assigned the actual club. Now the interesting part of this is Zaina, also known as Punjab in-game voice chat, was asking me about this being an actual possibility, and although I said it was plausible, I kind of brushed it off, assuming that this was unlikely to happen. Nonetheless, that seems to be what the case was. Now, I have a very bad ping because I live in Thailand, literally as far away from the server as I could possibly be. After about a minute, the loot becomes free for all, so anyone can collect that loot just sitting on the ground. And because my ping is so high, literally anybody competing against me will always win. Now, the interesting thing is that there was a Hollow, which is a free-to-play character, that was to the right of me and was mining tin, completely ignoring the legendary item that was sitting on the ground that they 100% would have gotten over me. Now, another interesting thing is that this particular brute was a second brute spawn within Mother's Cave, also known as the Brown Goblin Camp. Usually you only see one brute spawn, but as per a video which I'll show you in a little bit, occasionally two brutes can spawn in a location, and this was one of those cases. Now, in terms of total kills, like I said, I got 104 kills, and about 50% of those were completely with me solo, and of the remaining, there were about one person, occasionally two or three people with lesser damage as part of their contribution. And in total, there's about 500 to 600 total server kills up to this point. Now, given the expected drop rate of 1 in about 5,500, this drop came considerably earlier than I was expecting. I was expecting to see maybe at about the 1.5 to 2 month range to see the first drop, and I was kind of expecting to get it myself within the 6 to 9 month range. So getting it after essentially a week is very, very lucky. So in this video, you can see me frantically clicking on the Legendary Brutes Club until I finally got it right there. I immediately go into my inventory to look at it, and I equip it, and there you go. So yeah, you can see me kind of tab out there. I was immediately checking and posting the Discord within like seconds of getting that item. Weapon stats and their comparison. So we have three weapons here. We have on the far left the wooden club, in the center the bronze coated hammer, which came on the second day of the Glimpse into the Unknown event. And of course on the far right is the Legendary Brutes Club, forged not by fire but by fury. This monstrous wooden club bears the scars of countless battles, used to deliver crush attacks. Now the bronze coated hammer does exactly twice the damage bottom and top end of the wooden hammer, and the Legendary Brutes Club does twice the top end damage of the bronze coated hammer, but the bottom end damage is still the same. So there's a really big range in terms of how much damage this weapon gets. Sometimes you go around one-shotting things, sometimes it's really weak and you have to hit things multiple times. It's quite random. The next thing is with regards to the repair costs. So the wooden hammer, when partially damaged, is 1 Gala token. If it's completely broken, it's still the same. The bronze coated hammer is 5 Gala tokens. However, if it's completely broken, it's 10 Gala tokens. The Legendary Brutes Club, if it's partially broken, is 10 Gala to repair, and although I didn't allow it to become fully broken just in case they did something tricky like make it 1,000,000 Gala or something ridiculous to repair, I'm assuming it's probably 20 Gala, although I'm going to make a note to never let it actually break. Now, some specific bonuses related to this Legendary Brutes Club. So it has twice the durability of the, say, wooden hammer. Normally it's 100 attacks. So this one can use more attacks, which makes its use of repair powders much more efficient, because repair powders restore 50% durability, not a certain number of durability ticks. Next is the top end damage. Being twice as high means you're going to be doing a lot more DPS. If you're doing a lot more DPS, mobs die earlier. If mobs die earlier, you lose less durability on the weapon because you have to swing the weapon less. The combination of more efficient repairs due to higher durability and higher top end damage means that this weapon is about 4 times more efficient when farming mobs, or in other words, you'll use about 1/4 the amount of repair powder to do the same job. Another interesting thing is it has extended range. Its range is close to that of the spear, which makes it very, very powerful, especially considering you can outrange mobs often with cheesing by taking advantage of this particular attribute. Now, another thing is the image doesn't actually look like the Brute's club, so I think both the equipped image and the icon are a placeholder at this point. I'm not 100% certain of that, but that's my impression at this point. And here we have a video of showing the Brute's club, which looks like a hammer in motion. You can see I walk up to that goblin hunter and hit him with a single shot. I'm intentionally attacking slowly and moving slowly for most of this video, simply to make it clear to see how many attacks are required to actually kill things. So that goblin archer, that's a one shot. None of these mobs were damaged beforehand. These are all fresh mobs. So that one took 2. Go up to this goblin archer and boom, there's a 1. So we're seeing 1 or 2 hits pretty consistently across the board here. It's about 70% chance of 1 hitting and about 30% chance of 2 hitting. Maybe not 30% chance, it could be like 1% chance of 3 hitting, which is very rare. Some general Brute information. So on the left we have the Goblin Brute, and that's what the Goblin Brute looks like when my Lantern of the Sun is turned off, because normally most of these images he looks really yellow. He doesn't actually look like it, it's just that I have a Lantern of the Sun glaring off of him, which is kind of blinding in a lot of cases. On the far right is the map of Narrow's Landing, with the X's marking where the Brutes typically are. So the Big Goblin Camp, Mother's Cave, Yellow Goblin Camp, and Green Goblin Cave. The Mother's Cave is also considered the Brown Goblin Camp. Now, in terms of the Brute, he is weak to pierce damage, so you should be using the Bronze Spear. If you don't have that, you can use the Wooden Spear or even the Wooden Dagger. There's no Bronze Dagger. You can also get bonus damage from the bow, but the bow does such little damage, I don't recommend using it. Next thing is he deals crush damage, so you want to wear the full set of Bronze Brigandine armor. It's an absolute game changer going from that full set to literally any other set. He can like one-shot you with a smash with other sets. This one you'll survive multiple hits. Another thing I don't mention here, but you'll typically want to use the Owl as well, and if you have a Vox, it helps that much more as well. He has 2 different phases, and they're roughly equal in total hit points, about 50% and 50%. Phase 1 he does an AoE frontal attack, and he can hit multiple people in kind of like a cone in front of him, so you want to be standing to his sides or behind him typically. In Phase 2 he enrages, and he does a smash attack that does massive damage. It does about 2.5 times as much damage as his normal attacks. And he does that every 8 seconds as long as someone's in range. Now, his range for the smash attack is greater than that of his normal frontal cone attacks. However, in addition to the frontal cone attacks, it can also be avoided if you time it right. Although if you're running at high ping, it's very difficult to avoid. Another thing that's important to note is that mobs, not just them, but specifically important with the Goblin Brute, is that they can leash. If you move them too far away from their spawn point, they'll run back and heal to full health, and that's something relatively new. So you definitely don't want to get this guy low health just to have him fully restore all of his health, considering it takes about 300 hits with the Bronze Spear, which he's weak to, just to kill him. And another important thing is he can be cheesed. I've done it a few times now, where I've gone from having him at full health all the way to 0 without taking a single hit point in damage. It's not easy, especially with high ping, but it is doable. The last thing I'd like to mention is that he can spawn 2 at a time in very rare occasions, and in the next video you'll see one such case. So in this videos of the large goblin camp, you can clearly see 2 brutes running around smashing people in addition to tons of goblins. How do you actually get one of these lovely clubs? So if you have a group, say 4+ people, although it can be done with less than that reasonably using this strategy if your players have very high effective DPS, you want to be on voice comms. Not a requirement, but personally I'm always on voice comms. And for anyone in our guild that wants to be joining up with us, be free to come in and join us on voice comms. I can be pretty intense, I know, but I do intend to kind of help people improve on their gameplay and the like. First things you want to do is clear any ads. So if there's any other small goblins or whatever running around causing you grief, then you want to get rid of them, especially because they do pierce damage, whereas the boss does crush damage. And because you're probably wearing the crush resistance armor while fighting him, you're going to take additional damage to that pierce damage that those small goblins take, and they usually only take a couple hits to take down, unless of course you have the legendary brutes club, in which case you kill them likely with one hit. Important when you're in a group is spreading out evenly around the boss, and you can see in the screenshot here where we're all fairly evenly spread out, and the reason for that is you can body block other people. Now that can be used to your advantage if you're trying to intentionally limit the loot acquired by other people. You can kind of stand in front of their shots so they can't hit the boss. But if you're actually in a group and you're trying to defeat the boss, you probably want to be spread out and avoid doing that. Now there should only be one person kind of in front of the boss, and on this case you can see the person on the far left is in front of the boss. I'm kind of directly on his 90°, which is on his shoulder, just out of range of his frontal cone AoE. Now, if you have, say, 4+ people and you're all doing consistent DPS, using the Bronze Brigandine Spear, you can go from him having full health to being dead with a single spear, so you don't have to actually repair it. Now, if your DPS is a little lopsided, or you have players that are not on par, or they die, or whatever, then you probably will have to repair in combat, or switch to a secondary weapon slot, which could include a second spear. The last thing I'd like to mention on this, guys, you want to be aggressive. I've seen a lot of players earlier on, they're kind of backing off all the time and worried about taking damage. You get up into this guy and just wreck him. You want to take him down quick, and you want to get the max DPS and the max loot and be the most efficient in terms of your bandage use and stuff, then you got to be aggressive. That's the biggest thing I can say. I had a few people in my guild who initially were quite timid and were doing low DPS. By the end of the event, they were averaging 3 times the loot per boss killed, given their change in gameplay dynamics. Okay, so this is a video, and this is the general strategy we used for rotation, starting at the brown goblin camp, then teleporting by death to the green goblin camp, and then going to the yellow goblin camp, and then running back to this one. And we're at the very top of the Mother's Cave here at the brown goblin camp. And that person that's always body blocking, that's Abdo. He's our team blocker to intentionally make people's lives difficult. Good job, Abdo. You see, he gave me a lot of extra points by doing that. So the brute just spawned right on time. He spawns every kind of 20 minutes, 30 minutes, that general range. And immediately I'm on him. As long as I'm close to him, I'm attacking. And the main thing is I always want to see that I'm hitting. And you can tell if you're hitting by 2 things. So you see the blood splatter when you hit, and you also see this little 3 triangles that pop out. Now, with the Lanterns of the Sun, you see how he's very bright and hard to see? That's because we have so many people with Lanterns of the Sun that he's hard to see. So another thing you can consider is potentially turning your lanterns off. Now you see that guy, the elf in the close that keeps going in front of him like that? He's blocking shots, and that would be Abdo. So as he's coming around, typically I try to time my spear attacks as he's crossing. Now we're all fairly evenly spread out here to optimize DPS. Now if there's a lot of people standing by, you can jump up in the air and aim downwards, especially if you're an elf or an orc, and hitting towards the head counts for that. The other thing is if you're at lower level than everybody else, aiming at his feet can increase your accuracy and make it so you get more hits in. And where you hit him doesn't change the damage done, so anywhere that you hit him will contribute the same amount of DPS. So as you can see, we're constantly moving around. He's enraged now. You see he's doing a smash attack, which does quite a bit of damage, and he's already down. So a fairly quick kill here. I got 10,000 Chaotic Trace, which is the highest of them. I immediately go to Unstuck, and my bind point is the first outpost just outside the Citadel of the Sun. And that's considerably faster than running from Mother's Cave all the way to this area. So we want to have as much uptime on the bosses as possible because a lot of people are farming them, so whatever you can do to decrease your time is important. And you see my spear was almost fully broken, and I fully repair it. And I should, assuming our DPS is good, I should only have to repair after combat with each attempt. Now as a group we're heading towards the Green Goblin camp, leaving from Outpost 1, which we on-stuck death teleported to. So you kind of hug the wall here. You're going west, and now we're kind of turning north up towards the Green Goblin camp, which is near where the first dungeon is going to be, or at least was originally planned as the first dungeon, being Skywound Mine. And by this point we should already have our spotters and or spies having the brute in position for the minimal distance runtime. And he's right there at his max leash location. Pulling him through that entrance would have caused him to run back and fully heal. So we make sure we have him close as possible to where we're going to attack him, but not far enough where he's going to heal up. And as per the previous time, I get in there and I'm attacking. And I'm on him pretty early because I want to optimize my damage on him to get as much chaotic trace as possible. This footage is during the glimpse into the Unknown event that I ranked first in by a pretty massive margin, honestly. Mostly because I played nearly 24 hours a day and I had multiple epic rings and did a lot of DPS and was kind of absolutely insane, but that's just how I play. Anyway, we're just kind of kiting him around slowly. One person's doing all the tanking, which is saving me a bunch of bandages. I probably should have peeled off and killed that ad, but I apparently ignored that, and I want to optimize my DPS, so also I need to repair. Yeah, we'll say it because I need to repair. That'll be my excuse there. So interestingly enough, the boss hasn't been really on me most of the time. Now there is an aggro reset, at least a partial aggro set when he enrages, and he will be enraging sooner rather than later here. You'll tell because he kind of pauses for a second, then he starts smashing people. See, you see how he paused about 5 seconds ago and started smashing? Every 8 seconds he's capable of doing a smash. I think he does bug occasionally and sometimes smashes twice in a row, but typically it's every 8 seconds on the button. Now, see, he hit me there, and my health is really low. I was down to like 10% health, so I'm starting to heal up here. I'm usually much more aggressive than this, but he's been pretty aggressive on me come phase 2, and you see he's targeting me again right now. Everyone else, however, is getting substantial uptime on him, and I dodged that shot, nice. And as soon as he does a smash, I know I can get really into his face and start wrecking him, because his little swing attack does like minuscule damage. And that's Abda. Good job, Abda, with the blocking. Now the smash attack, despite it being an AoE, it's an AoE only for the person that he's targeting. His frontal cone AoE is a true AoE. And you can always know how much DPS you're doing by your percentage. So I got 17,500, which is almost twice as much as the next person. However, I was on this boss a little bit earlier than most people. And we'll repair up the weapon, which is good. You don't have to completely top it off like that. That's a little efficient with repair powder. But this is during the event time, and I want to optimize damage on the boss, so I didn't want to waste downtime during combat repairing if I didn't absolutely have to. So now we're leaving the edge of the Green Goblin camp, and we're going south right now. And we're going to turn west here towards the yellow goblin camp. And that's kind of what I used to call the first small goblin camp. Some of my older maps are a bit different because the goblins didn't have colors originally. They were all just the same. And all you have to do is you follow the path all the way up to the top of this yellow goblin camp. And typically the brute spawns at the very top, although he can be pretty much anywhere along this path. From all the dead bodies, you can see that some people have been pretty aggressive with fighting him. I don't see him as of yet. He probably hasn't spawned yet. At this point, we've done this rotation multiple times, so we're kind of edging on the spawn timers here. Now, there are a ton of... Oh, there's actually the brutes right there on the right. But before we fight the brute, of course, we want to kill off all of these ads. And the other important things about the other mobs and ads is that they drop bones. And bones can be used to repair your weapons, which is by far the biggest time sink in terms of your potential progression. Unless you want to spend Gala tokens, of course. If you want to spend real money, then you have no such limitation. However, the more powerful the weapon you have, the more it costs in Gala tokens to repair, so you got to be careful in that regard. Otherwise, you find yourself spending considerable amounts of money. During this event specifically, I spent about 900 Gala repairing weapons, in addition to all of the repairs that I made. So I'm just looting up, trying to get a few bones here. I don't think I actually noticed that the brute spawned on the right when I was jumped up across the rock. Regardless, I'm going back in to kill the rest of the random mobs, and then we find the brute to try to fight him. So lots of mobs still around. And we're not really in a rush at this point, because the next place would be the brown goblin camp, and we know that the brown goblin camp brute isn't spawned yet because we had this cycle down very quick. So there's really no rush at this point. So heading down, this is kind of going down the hill, and there is the brute. So we've now engaged the brute once again, this being the final brute of our rotation. You can fight the brute in the large goblin camp, however that one tends to be a bit more of a nuisance because he moves around a lot. He also tends to leash more frequently, and there tends to be more goblins of different colors. Different colors have different weaknesses. So doing these three camps simultaneously in rotation is a much more effective way and better use of time and resources typically. Clearly I'm doing a good job of completely ignoring the ad that's wrecking everybody while tunneling the boss. Like, I have to repair my weapon in the middle of combat because some of my people were maybe still fighting some of the other mobs or potential ads, which is probably what I should have been doing. Anyway, we're on him now. You notice the brood is especially bright now because literally all of us have lanterns of the sun. We've had it one time where we had like 6 lanterns of the sun focusing on him at the same time, and you couldn't literally see like nothing. I even have my gamma turned down somewhat so it's not quite as bright. So, very similar. He's becoming rage. We're just constantly aiming. My main thing is to constantly be hitting him and making sure my hits are connecting as much as possible. And that's really the key to optimizing your DPS here. On average, I was about 30% higher than the next person, and that's typically just due to accuracy. I'm hitting about 90-something% of the shots here, even with a lot of motion. And check here, you get over 12,000 trace in that size of a group. He dropped 40,000, although he can drop 70,000 and sometimes. Now I'm just sprinting up through the top of the yellow goblin camp, and I'll be jumping down off of the cliff, which is the same area that we used to start raid encounters on Mother during the Mother playtest. Now at the time of recording this video, fall damage had not been taken into effect. However, that is being implemented, and we've seen videos of that happening, so if people are watching this and they're like, why are you jumping off a cliff? Well, at the time it was okay, but it may not be okay at the time you're watching this video. So now I'm kind of going north, and in the distance you can see outpost number 2. And we keep heading up to that way. Some people might set their bind point at outpost number 2 and death teleport to that, although I do think the outpost number 1 bind point is the optimal location. Now we're heading west up through the area heading into the Red Forest. However, we're not going to go all the way into the Red Forest, as we are going to redirect into Mother's Cave, waiting for the next cycle of brute spawns. And this is the entrance of Mother's Cave here that you can see. So clear out any ads, wait for the spawn, and rinse and repeat. You may be saying, well, I don't have a full group of people on Discord all the time when I'm playing, so what do? Well, here is a very easy strategy for a solo player and or anywhere under 1, 2, or potentially 3 people. I call this the cheese strategy. There are multiple different cheese locations, and there's considerably more than I have imaged here. However, I have very common ones that are shown in each of the camps. So in the top left is the large goblin camp, and that's the very entrance. There's a rock on the left-hand side of the entrance. Below that, there is a sacrificial pit in what used to be Mother's Cave, and you can stand in that pit while attacking the brute. The top right, there is a rock at the very northern part of the Green Goblin camp up the hill to where the Skywound mine entrance portal would be, and you can fight him on both sides of that rock without getting hit. And in the bottom right, there is a rock coming into the very top of the Yellow Goblin camp. This one's, I find, a little harder to get him in position, but on the very right side of that rock when you're looking down, you can get him stuck and attack him without him attacking back. Typically what you want to do, you want to have the people that are not going to be aggroing him already into the out of reach location. The person who is going to aggro them then hits them, or kind of runs back to the area where they want to get him stuck, and they keep hitting them while moving slowly backwards. Once he's close to you, you can kind of jump back up to the out of reach location while constantly attacking him. You don't want him to turn away and start running away, although if you do, you can just repeat the process until he stops running away. Once you get him to the point where your spear outranges his club in phase 1, then you can just free fire attack on him until he hits phase 2. Phase 2, he starts doing the smash attack, which outranges your spear. So you have to wait till he does a smash attack, you quickly dodge in, hit him 7 times, and immediately start backing up. If you time that just right, you can make it so you never take any damage, and you can repeat that until he's dead. Like I said previously, I've done this a couple of times now where I've done the entire encounter without taking any damage completely solo. So it is possible, and if my ping was better, I could probably do it a lot more frequent than that even. Now here's a series of videos of showing the cheesing. So this guy's in phase 2, so I'm going to have to move every once in a while, and this is the brown goblin camp in the sacrificial pit. I'm trying to bait his smash. See, I baited it and moved back, so I avoided it. Same thing in the green goblin camp up the top near Skywind Mine. Typically hit him 7 times and then move back, smash. Immediately move back in, hit him another 7 times, and then immediately move back and smash. He smashes again. Now this is a case on the yellow goblin camp where he's in phase 1. In phase 1 he doesn't do a smash, so you can free fire attack him from 100% health down to about 50% health, with absolutely no risk of anything other than making sure your weapons are repaired. This here is the entrance to the large goblin camp, and you can see I'm on a rock on the left hand side of the entrance. And here you can free fire attack him down to 50% as well in his first phase. Now, final thoughts. So a few things I'm just going to mention here. First, the Legendary Goblin Club does a really nice smash attack. You can see in the center there with the goblin getting hit with a critical damage. It's quite nice. On the left hand side, you can see the Mirandus glimpse into the Unknown Event leaderboard, and you can see myself clocking in at 17 million points, so 7 million above the next highest person. Abdo, who was frequently running with me, got 9 million points, and the couple last days I actually gave him a epic ring and was allowing him to loot my corpses if there was nobody else around, and that helped him bump up several places on the leaderboard. Satoshi Sean was also running with us quite frequently. He got 16 at 1.2 million points. Wave Motion as well, who's a marquee within the guild. He got 900,000 points. Gulliver, who I frequently have in my videos, clocked in at 778,000 points. Grok This, who's been on quite frequently, 646,000 points. Gabber Beast, who joined us, was very efficient and within a single day of playing got rank 32 at 419,000 points. And finally we have Van, the Inclusive Man, V1234 at rank 34 at 377,000 points. So I think we did pretty good as a group in terms of the leaderboard. On the far right, we can see the Chaotic Trace, and that was an example of one of the super fatties. I got 68,000 Chaotic Trace off of that one, so 70,000 total. However, there was some friendly fire damage and some other person hit him once or twice. I have to say I'm pretty impressed with what I'm seeing here. The dev team has been literally making various updates almost every single day for the past several weeks. The addition of an event was quite a surprise. It brought lots of people on. We had something like 500 people playing, and sometimes there were like 20 and 30 people on the screen, which was pretty impressive. Lots of competition. I think people enjoyed it. Addition of new weapons, new loot, new NFTs. Benefactor's been quite vocal on Discord as well, with lots of new updates, additional hiring of the team to expand deeds, buildings, and new dungeons. Benefactor even reposted one of my videos on X, which I thought was pretty interesting given I have a fairly small channel of only 150 subscribers, but was very welcome nonetheless. I even saw Bitbender commenting about watching one of my videos on his stream, so that was also quite interesting. Going forward, these kind of events I think could be very worthwhile. The Glimpse into the Unknown was successful from a community engagement standpoint, certainly from a financial standpoint in terms of direct sales, where there was about 4 to 5 times as much Gala tokens intake in purchasing rings, not including all of the costs of repairs compared to the total payouts. And all of that in the community engagement seems to be pushing forward for ongoing and increased acceleration and development, all of which are good things. Looking on OpenSea, the total amount of buys, especially when it comes to exemplars, has exceeded sells to WETH considerably since the event as well. There was also the introduction of Hollows, which is the free-to-play characters, and it was interesting to see that a lot of these free-to-play players were very engaged in the game, some getting up to full tier sets, and it does appear as though they've been potentially even buying exemplars to upgrade to fully play the game as well. So I think that was implemented very well. Going forward, I'm quite optimistic actually. Previously I was quite cautiously optimistic. However, if the dev team and the Gala leadership continues pushing Mirandus to this level, this could actually become quite successful. So I'm looking forward to ongoing videos, waiting for the next milestone number 9, and I will make a video post that one as well. And if anyone wants to give me any messages or anything, feel free to message me on Discord. As per the norm, I will have comments turned off on this video. And